Okay, so this is called the Alt Accountant Pricing, Positioning, and Innovation Workshop. Again, for some context, this is a sort of this is lifetime of learning from me, of learning how to become an accountant that proudly says that is different than the rest, right? I proudly walk around that I'm the alternative to what most people think accountants are. And I'm not the only one out there. There's many alt accountants out there. I think Michael very much is one, and Andrew is very much is one, but it's sort of a name we gave it to. Just is a combination between alternative and sort of the techie version of alt, right? So it's a second option. It's a different option. It's something new, refreshing. And there's many things that I've learned in my lifetime. As Michael says, giving good advice, great advice to a client is one of the most priceless things that we can do. But before we get to the point where we can actually give great advice, where we can do advisory, we have to do three things. One is we need to position ourselves as an advisor. Our client needs to see us as an advisor before they take the advice or take action on the advice. Because there's plenty of people giving their opinion and advice on things. But until you're positioned to be the person that gives that person advice, we're supposed to help that person, they're not going to listen to you. So until you're seen as the expert or as a person that's credible or a person that's been there, done that, your advice is not going to mean that much. Now, that's different than coaching, by the way. Coaching means helping someone sort of come to realization about their own doubts. Advice is a combination of helping the client through their issues, but also giving them ideas and saying, in my experience, we can try this. In my experience, we can try that. So that's where positioning comes in. You have to be able to present yourself as a person that's fit to do that. That was meant to give that person advice. The second one, to me, it's pricing. If you don't price your advice, if you don't get paid for your advice, sorry, it was just an opinion. Right? So it needs to be a commercial transaction. You need to be able to price the advice. So to me, pricing has been very influential. And the third one is innovation. We giving traditional advice about traditional things, it's not having a lot of value anymore. The business world is moving super fast. Technology is moving super fast. If you yourself, as an accountant, you're not innovating yourself, when your client is asking you a question about how to manage this avalanche of innovation and change, how are you going to be fit to do that? So as an accountant yourself, you need to be innovating, reinventing yourself. That's why the workshop is about these three things. So we're going to talk about just positioning today. That's going to be the only thing that we'll discuss. Now, the very first most important thing to becoming an alt accountant is to break through the accountant stereotypes, right? Typical accountant stereotypes are they're dull, they're boring, they're technical, right? Professorial, they're going to cite some sort of tax code. That's unfortunately, that's a stereotype. The second one is that we're generalists. Most accountants don't like to deep dive into anything. Like they'll give a general rule or general advice, and they're afraid to get really deep into the weeds because then they're going to be dragged into all their clients' personal problems, and they really don't want to get that. So most accountants just kind of stay in like overall compliance, overall general advice. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you legal advice. I'm not a marketer, so I can't give you marketing advice. I'm not an operator. So that's the challenge that a lot of accountants have. They want to stay in that generalist role, because they don't want any liability, or that, again, they don't want to be maybe dragged into all the client's problems or whatever the mindset might be. So this is a mindset change. This is a revolution of mindset that we're trying to do here. And the last one is accountants are cheap and accountants are frugal. And a lot of us wear that with a badge of pride. I do. I want my clients to think I'm cheap and frugal when it comes to helping them save money, right? But I don't want them to think I'm cheap and frugal with my time to them. I don't want them to think I'm cheap and frugal with the quality I would deliver for them. I don't want them to think that I'm cheap and frugal with my knowledge. I don't want them to think that I'm going to hold back. Okay, so these are the three stereotypes that we need to break through, right? That we're boring, that we don't know that much about anything when it comes to diving deep. And the third one is that we're cheap and frugal. So the antidote to this stereotype is going to be three prongs. So we'll talk about each one. So the first antidote to being boring, technical, is use layman terms. Don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about accounting. Don't talk about what the IRS wants. Don't talk about rules. Talk about what the client wants. Talk about them, right? Or if anything, let them talk about them. Listen about them, right? So if you want to not be seen as a technical Boldoran person, get the client to speak. All you have to do is do a couple of nuts and grunts to acknowledge that you're listening. And as long as the conversation is about them, their problems, their issues, their aspirations, their clients, they will no longer see you as this boring, technical, dull person. Second one is, and it seems kind of obvious, but so little people actually apply this, is stop being a generalist. Like I just saw in a Facebook post, someone that put, hey, I'm going to give out business cards on the little treat bags while trick-or-treating. You know, my neighbors, some of them might be business owners, and they might read my business card and maybe they'll hire me as a bookkeeper. It's like, dude, that's not a great technique. That's the opposite. Because what you're saying is that the only requirement for you to take on the client is the fact that they have kids that eat candy. So there's absolutely no relationship between your expertise and who your target client is. So when you hand out business cards at random just to try to throw something at the wall to see what sticks, that's being an uber generalist. A specialist goes so deep and so narrow that says no 90% of the times before they say yes. Your ability to say no is actually one of the most important things as a specialist. You got to be able to only take the clients that you can add tons of value for and you can stand out, right? And for that, you got to become an authority in something very specific. To become an authority on something very specific, you have to do it 100 times. You have to talk about it 100 times. You have to write about it 100 times. You have to do a podcast about it, do a video about it 100 times. And I know it's repetitive and boring for us to just do one thing and do it over and over, but there comes a point in time where, yes, as a specialist, you will have a lot less potential customers. That's true. But you're going to be a little fish in a big pond, right? But as a specialist, you will be a big fish in a small pond. People will all gravitate towards you, right? And then people will say, you know what? I don't want to hire anyone else ever. You were put on earth to save my business. You were put on earth to help me grow. That's how people need to see you, as a specialist, one that cares about the things that the client also cares about. And the last one is on the whole concept of being cheap and frugal. Spend more time with your customers. Be generous with your time. Be generous with your knowledge. Give away free resources. Podcast, the way we're doing it now. We're spending every Friday night talking about this. This is not for fame. We're not charging anyone money. We're not calling ourselves generous. We have fun with this. But the people that watch us talk about stuff and read our stuff, and it feels that we're giving away free stuff, that's abundance. That's being generous. And clients like to deal with generous providers, right? Do you want to go to a restaurant that they use only cheap ingredients? No. Right? Do you want to go to any service provider that uses the cheapest equipment to cut your grass? Or is super stingy about putting fertilizer only on certain parts of the grass instead of doing the whole thing? Or do you want to go to a doctor that only has one scalpel and one set of gloves, right? Because I don't want to spend too much money on scalpel and gloves. No, you're like, brand new scalpel for me and throw it away. I want brand new. So generosity and abundance is a big part of your brand. And accountants, we're so far in the opposite end of this. Okay, and it is a problem with zero-sum mentality, which we'll discuss in a second. So kind of the reason I want to help you break through this concept is because it's true. In an accountant's brain, debits always equals credits. This is our formal training, right? In our formal training, it's all about balance, right? In order for an account to gain, another one has to lose. The problem is this translates really poorly in the real world. Debits and credits is a zero-sum mentality. If you think in debits and credits, if your mind is designed about debits and credits, that means that you don't believe in win-win. You don't believe in two sides gaining. You only believe in one side gaining and the other side losing. That's how debits and credits are fundamentally based. So I don't blame accountants for having a zero-sum mentality. This is part of their training. Now, I was blessed with being a marketer before I was an accountant. And in marketing, what we're taught is that marketing drives the value, not cost. And marketing has no cost. Marketing is just brand and concepts. We conceptually make something worth more because we conceptually convince the client that something is worth more. That's what a brand is. A brand creates value out of nothing, where accounting doesn't understand brand value. Accounting only understands cost, and which is why there's a zero-sum mentality. So when I heard Ron Baker say this, it blew my mind. I mean, in so many ways, it really rattled my cage. He says, in the real world, debits don't equal credits. What this means is that when I hire someone to cut my hair, is because I prefer to pay $25 and look nice. And I win. I won. Trust me, saving $25 and cutting my own hair would be a losing proposition. Yes, I saved the $25, but I'll look like crap. Now my barber prefers my $20, $25 or whatever, versus the alternative of staying home and playing video games or whatever. So my barber is glad to spend 30 minutes cutting my hair and take my $25. And I'm glad to give somebody $25 to cut my hair. That's called a win-win situation. That is the opposite of zero sum. So when Ron Baker explained this, it just blew my mind. It is possible for me as an accountant to take an enormous amount of money from my client and my client thank me for it. And when you think like that, it just changes the way you think, right? Because you don't know what you're worth to your client. You don't know what your services are worth to your client. Your client doesn't know what you and your services are worth until you perform it and you get the output out of it. But if you know what you're doing and you transform your client's thinking, transform your client's business, whatever they pay you, to them was a $25 haircut. So that's something that just completely made me change the way I think. So entrepreneurs, our customers, they don't have a zero-sum game. They wake up every morning, they work their butts off. They never feel that they get what the return of what they put in, but yet they wake up every single morning and hustle and do it over and over and over again. As accountants, we know this. We hear our clients, we hear their struggle. So if they don't have a zero-sum mentality, why should we? So that leads me to the concept of having an abundance mindset and shying away from the scarcity mindset. So when it comes to the three strategies, which is positioning, pricing your services, and having disruptive innovation, most accountants that have a scarcity mindset, again, because it's just a switch in your head, it's literally a switch. When we propose, hey, do positioning, do focus, do specialization, the scarcity mindset, the scarcity side of you says, oh no, that's not a good idea. That's less total customers or potential customers for me. Why would I specialize and niche and narrow when I'm narrowing down my customer base? But someone with an abundant mindset would think of the same problem differently. They would think, you know what? Now there's more services I can perform for my niche customer base. There's more I can do. I know a lot more that the average other person. I can do a lot more for them. I can do a lot more than just compliance. I can do advisory, et cetera, et cetera. What about pricing your services? Most accountants, again, the traditional accountants, when every time a complex, weird, different project comes along, what do they think? I better charge for my hard work, right? I better charge by the hour. I better track my hours. I better charge up front, which is not a bad idea, by the way, but I better charge. I better track and charge. My clients are too cheap. Every accountant I speak to, oh, Hector, I can't value price. My clients are too cheap. The antidote to that would be just changing your mindset. Just instead of saying that, say, I will charge a fraction for the value I create. My clients will always pay for more value, period. Now, when it comes to disruptive innovation, which is all about reinventing yourself and breaking your own system, even though it works, because that's the problem with successful accountants, is that their system works. Right? They've been charging $300 an hour forever. They have 1,000 clients. They're always busy. Why would you change? Why would you look at things differently? Why would I take unnecessary risks? And somebody with an abundant mindset will say something like, you know what? A new product, a new service, a new approach will provide my customer choices. Choices. Someone that's been with an accountant for 20 years, they don't have a choice. They get a bill, it's 3.7 hours times $375 an hour, pay the bill, move on. They don't get choices. They don't feel like even the provider is giving choices. They're just saying, give me the work, I'll do it, here's the bill. And new choices, new thinking always brings new opportunities. All transformation is linguistic. All transformation is linguistic. You cannot transform until you figure out the word that you need to use in order to understand what the transformation looks like. All transformation is linguistic. The words that we use to talk to our clients, the words that we use to talk to our brain are the only ones that help us transform. Think about it. Without language, could we even think? Without language, could we even think? We would only think in abstract terms. What language does is language enables different parts of our brain to think through problems. And when we think about it, most of the time when we think in words. We don't think in abstracts, right? So transformation is linguistic. Until you find the right words to say and how to say them, like Michael says, the tone and the inflection and the context of what you're saying, you can only bring about transformation by using the words, by repeating them and using the right words. Okay, I think I got a few minutes. So that drives me to the first pillar, which is positioning, unique positioning. And most people ask me, well, Hector, I don't know how to pick a niche. I don't know how to pick a specialty. I don't know how to go about doing that. And I don't have an answer for you on how to pick a niche or which specialty to pick, but I do have an answer or a suggestion or a framework on how you can think about at least the most important part, which is communicating that niche. Because if you specialize, like I specialize on manufacturing, if I didn't say it every time I say something, people wouldn't know. If I don't have 10 videos about manufacturing, people wouldn't know. If I don't write about manufacturing, people wouldn't know. Most people say I specialize, but it all stays in their head. It's like, dude, if you specialize and nobody knows that you specialize, you don't specialize, period, right? So in order to have a successful positioning, you gotta be able to communicate it. So there's a couple ways to think about positioning. One, there's the vertical, right? There's the industry. Also, company size is a vertical positioning, right? Little companies, big companies, companies with so many employees, that's a vertical positioning. There's also entity type positioning. Like I have a friend, accountant, that only does S Corps. I have another friend, accountant, that only does partnerships of 2. Like he won't take a partnership of 3. He will only take a partnership of 2. And I'll be like, what, why? And he's like, well, in my previous life, I was in arbitration and I'm really, really good at helping negotiate. And partnerships of 2, the biggest advisory opportunity is help them untangle when they don't agree. And you know what? That's so true. How many of our clients are 2 partners, 50-50, and they're deadlocked on stuff. And one partner is talking crap about the other partner, and it's so unproductive. So I understand why that person would niche in that, and I understand how that person can bring about change and transform 2 people partnerships. So that's a type of vertical. So it's not just industry. People get stuck on industry, and most people just get scared about industry. So don't think it's not just industry. There's also horizontal positioning, which is all about the type of problem. So working with QuickBooks is a horizontal problem. Working with QuickBooks Enterprise is even a narrower horizontal problem. Working with QuickBooks Enterprise, specializing on inventory and manufacturing, it's even a deeper horizontal problem. Now, some horizontal problems talk about the current unwanted state or the future desired state. So a current unwanted state is where people are now. So I'm working with clients that are growing, right? But in their growth, they're messy, right? That's a current unwanted state. And if you communicate, I want people with messy books, right? Or I want people that want to retire in 5 years. I want people that want to sell their business in 5 years. I want people that are looking for funding, right? That's a future desired state. So you can communicate to, where the client wants to be. Okay. There's also specialized or unique skill positioning, which is all about, this is more internal. This is about what you do, what's specific to you, right? So are you are you faster than everyone else? Or are you good at finding specific errors? Are you good at finding fraud? Are you really good at adjusting inventory reports? So that's really when it comes down to the specific skill set of the consultant. And then the vertex, to me, which is the sweet spot, is picking a vertical, picking a horizontal, picking a specialized skills, and go super narrow in that and learn how to communicate. So I'm going to skip a couple of these slides so I can go to my positioning statement. So this is the example of how I started. Okay, I started by saying I want to work with manufacturers, and my first way of communicating is I'm an accountant for manufacturing companies. That's not bad, by the way. I call myself an accountant, which puts me in a category, and manufacturing companies is a vertical niche. And then I started working on it, and I actually had a person help me with this. I had a coach help me with this. My next step was I'm an accountant that specializes in inventory workflow management for manufacturers, because I wanted to specify that I wanted to communicate that is inventory workflow management. But then this got too wordy, too convoluted, difficult to communicate. So I went through multiple iterations, and my new positioning statement, or my most recent one, is I help owners of busy manufacturing businesses take more vacations. See, that was transformative. When I thought about that and when I worked, I thought that was transformative, because I'm now using multiple things in a simple sentence. I'm using multiple things. And there's two parts of it, by the way. So first I say, I help owners of busy manufacturing businesses take more vacations, and I shut up and I don't say anything else. If whoever I communicate that to asks me, well, can you tell me how you do that, right? Because this is kind of abstract. Then I go to my second sentence, which is by implementing a process to have and keep accurate inventory workflows that the entire organization can flow in real time. So I use my first positioning statement in a very simple way, elegant, right? I help owners of busy manufacturing businesses take more vacations. And my second one is the nerdy, deep into the vertical, deep into the specialty in there. Now, when I break this down, think about all the components. Busy. The word busy means what? For the most part, chaotic, right? Wrong inventory, work orders all over the place, backed up, right? So it's got some negative connotations. This is what I call the current undesired state. I don't want manufacturing businesses that are super successful and got their stuff together. There's really not much I can do there, right? I'm good at fixing inventory problems. So I communicate that I'm looking for the busy ones. I didn't say the bad ones or the wrong ones or the successful ones or the rich ones. I said the busy ones. And the second thing is desired future state. What is the desired future state? Take more vacations. Then my vertical focus is there, which is manufacturing businesses. And then on the second part of my positioning statement, I talk about my horizontal focus, which is help keep accurate inventory workflows for the entire organization. So I'll end it like that. I think it's important for you to see how simple and how elegant it can be and you can hit all the points and be on a vertex. And I got to tell you, when manufacturing clients call me, they don't bulk on price. They don't ask me for my credentials. They don't say, how do I know that you know what you're doing? When they get to me, because I communicated this very well, they're saying, when can you start and who do I write the check to? And you want to be in that position of trust, position of expertise. So I explain why take more vacations. So I'll cover that real quick. So this is the inspirational part of the sentence, just in case my client gets interested on why take more vacations. I say very simply, when I started my practice, the hardest thing for me was to take a vacation. So I implemented internal workflows that allow me to delegate, allow me to leverage. So I know the pains of not being able to take a vacation. And I appreciate when you're a busy business owner that you have the same pain points. And manufacturers, like accountants, are in the transformation business. So I love them. So that's the backstory, how I got there. And that's just sort of the the real application, how you get to unique positioning statement. As a quick preview, I show you sort of the new one I'm testing, which is I am the QuickBooks consultant for manufacturers with messy inventory. I do that to specifically target people that are in that undesired future state, that have urgency and they want to pay a lot of money to solve the problems quickly. And then to the presentation, we're going to talk about formulation and different versions of it. So in the workshop at QuickBooks Connect, we'll have the opportunity to practice that with other folks in there. So ideally, we would have we'll present this part, and then we'll break up into groups, and we'll let people sort of test out their own and get feedback, and then we'll get back and teach some more. But there's other components to this as well.
I think if people walk out of your session and they get one thing, is go create a really clear, concise positioning statement, that's a big win. They don't have to get all of it, and then they can listen and watch later. But where did it? So now I want to make sure people know, where do they sign up? Where can they go to sign up for the workshop that you're going to be doing post QuickBooks Connect, the 4-week workshop, where you're going to be really going deep and helping people be accountable and implementing this? Sure.
So, yeah. So warning, advertising ahead. Okay. Michael and I are actually, we got together, and we're going to do a workshop called the Alt Accountant Workshop, which is going to be more of a group coaching version of this, where we're going to break down positioning as one, innovation as another one, pricing, and we're going to do a couple exercises. And as a group, we're going to have, I think the goal was 4 to 5 people per group. We're going to teach the framework, and we're going to give people an exercise. So you're going to go write your positioning statement, and we're going to add some conditions, or we're going to add some specific things that they have to do before to get there, some sort of internal exercises. And then they have to present to their small group the rough draft idea. The small group is going to critique it. Michael and I will critique it as well. We'll have different groups. And then people at the end will go back and reword it and do their final plan for each of the exercises: positioning, pricing, innovation, and advisory. Those are the 4 big ones: positioning, pricing, innovation, and advisory. If you got those 4, trust me, you're going to have a successful practice, like I do, like Andrew does, like Michael does, and many of our colleagues. So right now, the website's still being built. Is hectorgarcia.com/alt accountant. We don't have a sound price yet. We're trying to figure that out. But if you're going to go to QuickBooks Connect, definitely check it out. There's obviously no cost to that. If you're not going to QuickBooks Connect and this topic is interesting to you, Michael's conversation topic, advisory topics, my positioning and pricing topics, I recommend that you take it. It'll be a big investment, but it's very transformative. I already did this earlier this year. We had 6 people on it. All 6 people gave raving reviews, and we might even bring them in to help us kind of wrangle all the people that sign in. So for now, it's hectorgarcia.com/alt accountant. I'm still trying to get the alt accountant domain name working correctly, but we also own altaccountant.com. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Andrew. Well,